So as we've been looking, the heart of the practice is not to take up a fixed position in some way, because otherwise you have a dualistic structure of observer to observed, but to relax and open so that awareness, which is pervasive and present everywhere, is unobstructed in its immediate illumination of what is happening. And it means that we start to trust that being present with whatever is happening is the best way to be. Whether we have to deal with any kind of problem in health, in outer situations, in our own emotions, by being present with the issue, by turning to face it, by opening up to it, it takes on its proper shape. Problems are increased by worry, and worry is a way of winding in our energy so that on a conscious or subconscious level we're going round and round the same issue, like winding thread round a bobbin, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the very simple way of just being with whatever the situation is, whether it's sadness or fear or estrangement, this is what there is. And as Padmasambhava has pointed out again and again, because all that manifests is empty in its own ground presence, and because it has no inherent essence of itself, it arises together with other factors. These factors are moving, and so everything is impermanent. So if we are still and we are unmoving as presence, we see everything is moving. But as soon as the mind moves and we manifest as a subjectivity that's involved with objects, then this intoxication with movement is the very thing that blinds us to the stillness of the mind. And so we're always running here, there, everywhere, chasing ourselves round and round. So it's paradoxical that by not doing, the resolution that we need arises, and the more we do, the more involved we get, the less resolution there is. So we continue with this text now. So we're on page 110, and Padmasambhava, this is the third point that he's considering. Thirdly, the contributory causes of the three kinds of actions and the five afflictions. Due to virtuous actions, one is born in the higher realms of men and gods in the desire realm. Due to unwavering action, one is born in the heavens of Brahma, the form and formless realms. Due to unvirtuous action, one is born in the three lower realms, hell's insatiable ghosts and animals. So we have to think what this means. We've been looking at how what we take to be the world, when we open ourselves to it, we find that it's not an objective phenomena, but reveals itself through the quality of our participation. So in Buddhism, when they talk of these 6 realms of existence, it's not to say that they are truly existing somewhere else. It's not that they are simply fantasy projections of our own mind, but as we see, the ground is a potential. We live in this evocative space where our own mood or temperament allows us to perceive what is going on. On an outer level, you can read the accounts of people in Paris in the 1880s, 1890s, when there was the development of the notion of the flaneur. Somebody, usually with a private income, is wandering the streets. And their attention is going here and there. Now that's a completely different Paris if you're scurrying to work, or if you're worried about where your next meal is going to come from. So we can see on a very definite level that our mood and what we experience arise together. So the world is revealed as our perception. And so if we become very calm in ourselves, the lack of disturbance which is coming through to us muffles out many of the concerns of the world. We're just getting on with our lives. It's nothing to do with me. And you could say that's a very selfish, self-centered point of view, but it's a kind of impenetrability. So from the Buddhist point of view, even these highest God realms, where there is peace and tranquility, or in the lower God realms where there's a lot of aesthetic appreciation, there's a lot of beauty, music, harmony, and so on. Because these arise as experiences due to causes and conditions, after some time the causes and conditions change and they vanish. So we know this. You go on holiday, you have a couple of weeks and you relax. In the second week you're just getting into being there, and then you have to think of returning home. So the mood of the holiday doesn't last very long when you get home, because you're now in another world. You're returned into the world of busyness and demands, and this reconstitutes you. You constellate, you come together in a particular pattern for going to work, or for visiting elderly relatives, or maybe taking your kid to be looked after by their father and you don't like the father. You know, there's all kinds of situations which arise, and we emerge in that situation. So, as long as you are in the realm of duality, cause and effect operate, that is to say, you make choices about what you want, what you don't want. We try to have more happiness, we try to avoid pain, but that very activity itself causes the development of tendencies which then manifest as future situations for ourselves. This is what the karma means. Karma is activity which has both short-term results and long-term consequences. If you're kind to someone and they appreciate it, you might feel quite good, they smile at you, and you have a little bit of a glow, and then that's gone. So the short-term result is vanishing, but the consequence is that you've been practicing being more attentive to the lived situation of other people. So you now have a predilection, you have a tilt which says concern for others is good. So you get a kind of reinforcement, and that tendency leads to doorways of possibility opening for you that wouldn't open if you were very selfish in your orientation. This is what it means when it says that the mind is an open potential, and this potential is inseparable from the potential of the field of phenomena, so that awareness and the potential are co-emerging. So the flavor or the mood of how we are is constructive, you could say, or imaginative. It brings the imagination of how the world is going to be for ourselves, which is why karma is very important. That if you develop a lot of intentions to harm other people, the basis for this is because other people are real for you. It's quite a lot of effort to kill someone. If you're going to stab someone, there's a lot of mobilization. You've got to get the weapon, you have to have enough arousal in yourself to stab them and see the blood coming out and hear their screams, and then to feel happy that you've done that. This person has to be real. There's some real reason why I have to kill them. So that means that subject and object are very strongly real. You are my enemy. You did this to me. I hate you. You become very dense and solid, and I feel very powerful and aroused. And on the basis of this, we do killing. So here, subject and object are very strongly affirmed, and from the Buddhist point of view, this leads to the consequence that what arises for you is that you experience existence in the hells. The hells are places where you have unavoidable, intolerable distress, whether they're the hot hells or the cold hells or the intermediate hells. So again, as we were looking this morning, we have to consider language. We talk about being reborn in the hells as if it was thinking about, well, I'll go for a holiday in Tenerife. Is it a place somewhere else? Here we are in Germany, you can go from Germany to France. Now we have a human body, can you be reborn in another realm? Well, firstly we have to consider, are we born here? What does it mean to be born? We've been looking at the impermanence of our own life history. When we were children, we were not the same as we are today. This morning we had certain moods which arose, then in the afternoon people are sitting outside in the sun, having a coffee and cake, and it's very sweet. That's a particular mood. Then we come in here, now there's another mood. So all through your life, we're expanding and contracting in shape after shape after shape. So what are we born as? Perhaps we're in the process of becomings. So instead of being sentient beings, we are sentient becomings. We are processes of emergence and situational becoming, which is sentient, which is full of sensitivity, which is touched and moved. And this is how we're spending our time. So this dynamic movement gives rise to certain tendencies which give rise to other imaginings which manifest as the realms. If we say we're in Germany in the countryside, we can go to the tourist office and they'll say, oh, here are some of the important things you can visit while you're in this place. Did you know that this is a volcanic area? Or did you know that there was mining and you can visit some of the mines? So this is what this place is. But each person who lives here will have their own situation. Some of these houses will have happy families in them. Some of these houses probably have very unhappy families in them, with many secrets. That will be a different kind of existence in this village. So what could we say about life in a German village? Very little. Or very much. You could make a soap opera about what goes on here. All kind of dynamics are going on. So again and again we come back to the issue, what does it mean to say I am alive as a human being? Like saying I am a human being is a kind of conclusion. But if you start to observe the process of your interactions and your manifestations, actually we're much more energetically pulsatory. We expand, we move around, and what takes our attention changes through time. So, as he is saying here, the idea is that virtuous action, action which is concerned with the benefit of others, gives rise to the revelation of a particular kind of world. When we read, say, the stories of Franz Kafka, you see the paranoid vision that was around for him in his lifetime. Story after story which show the entrapment of beings inside incomprehensible situation. Life suddenly happens. So suddenly someone wakes in the morning and they're a beetle. Something has happened. They're not who they thought they were, but they're transformed. How could this be happening to me? And then the whole family has to go into some reorganization around that. Some of the relatives want to destroy this loathsome creature. Others are saying, oh, but we know who this is, but they just don't look like who we think they are. And we have so many stories from him that indicate life is not in the palm of our hand, because we experience consequences that we don't understand. We try to slip away from life. We try to make life work for us, but we don't understand how it works. So in the trial, why am I here? Why am I being tried? What is it for? We don't know. So, in a sense, if we take this up and we think about ourselves, we're like, why am I alive? What should I do with my life? That's such a very big, terrifying question that from the point of view of karma, in duality, is much better to think, okay, I'll be a good girl. I'll do my best to make other people happy. Now I put the blinkers on and say, if I'm going to be good, that simplifies life, because there's so many bad things I'd like to do, but I won't do because I want to be a good girl. And I want you to know that I'm a good girl, and then I'll go up and up and up. So that's kind of very low motivation ethics. It's not a profound ethics, but it's the ethics of manipulation of my own fate. So the teachings of karma are fundamentally egocentric and self-referential. They're saying if you want a good deed for yourself, do good things now. So it's a kind of script of performative development. You will reap as you sow. The harvest you get depends on what you planted. Now, the function of that is to give us a sense that the world is understandable, that we can see cause and effect and how it operates. So in the Dzogchen teachings it says, the openness of the mind, in its clarity, allows the free forming of infinite patterns as the display of unborn emptiness, what we've been looking at as Hlundrup, just appearance after appearance after appearance. If we stay with that open appearance as the ground of that appearance, we absolutely live directly, not cognitively mediated, not conceptually based, but we directly have the arising and releasing of situations. If we don't have that, if you lose awareness of the empty ground of manifestation, all you have is I, me, myself. And then you want a good deal for yourself, and maybe a good deal for other people, or maybe a good deal for you and a bad deal for other people. Or if you're masochistic, you want a good deal for other people and a bad deal for you. But because you're masochistic, if somebody gives you a bad deal and you want a bad deal, they're actually giving you a good deal. There is no end to the perversity of the human mind. So, it's about choreography. It's about trying to make this unimaginable complexity of existence arise in a linear formation of cause and effect. And so karma is what you get when you don't realize how complicated it is. Karma is a simplification of complexity because the ego cannot deal with complexity, it's too stupid. But awareness can manage complexity because awareness is inseparable from space, but the ego is always cleaving to the earth element to get situatedness, limitation, identity. And that means a limited capacity. So if you don't open to the unborn ground, you're trapped in a situation of cause and effect, this after that, this after that. As long as I am me in my skin bag, looking out at other people, trying to work out what are they thinking, do they like it, do they not like it, we're going to be very constrained in ourselves. Because because it's too complicated. There's a lot of people in this room. And we say you can please some of the people, some of the time, but you can't please all the people, all of the time. This is why group therapy is often much better than individual therapy, because in individual therapy, a sophisticated patient can run rings around the therapist and seduce them endlessly. But in a group, whatever little fancy moves you make, someone else is on your case. Someone can sniff out that you're running a number. So this is why social life is very important. And indeed, the Buddha said, you need to have Sangha. Because the thing about Sangha is somebody will see what you're up to. And if you're up to something and you don't want it to be known, you have a problem. How to live a transparent life with other people, it means you have to live yourself. You have to be authentic and accept my limitations are me. I can shift them a bit, but I come with my limitations. So accepting the emptiness of your limitations without using that as an excuse or the fantasy that you get away with it means moment by moment being able to be present in the self-liberation of whatever is arising. You're living exactly on the point of impermanence. If that's not present for you now and now and now, then you're grasping. You're thinking about the past, you're planning for the future, you've got a game plan. And this, with this image that we've used before, it's like these fine clouds forming in the sky, and gradually they thicken and thicken until you have a life. Now is Saturday, we've been here for a while, tomorrow will be Sunday, we say bye-bye. Monday morning, most of us have work. After Monday, we have Tuesday, then Wednesday, and life progresses. And we look in our diary and we know what we're going to do. And we do this for a number of years and then we die. Like a donkey. My pension is like a carrot in front of my nose. One day I'll be free. The tax man is like a stick on my ass. Earn more money. The children say, come on, Dad, Dad, come on. So this is how a lot of life is. It's trapped in a game plan in which you have to keep performing. Where is the ground of this? Well, it's all up to me. So again and again, the key difference between awakening and being asleep in this dream of endless activity is to see the empty ground of emergence. That's why we do the meditation. So once you're not in that open state, all these possibilities of samsara arise. So then he says, regarding the afflictions, due to anger one is born in the hell realm, due to desire in the insatiable ghost realm, due to stupidity in the animal realm, to jealousy in the asura realm, and due to pride in the god realm. Moreover, these afflictions are the power behind the three kinds of actions. These actions are the actions which are productive of the situation that we find ourselves in. So you can act subject onto object, or you can be the recipient of subject onto object onto subject, or you can have mutual subjectivity. And these are the three main kinds of activity that go on. So what it says, and what he's saying is, when your experience of the world is mediated through the coloration, through the colored lens, or the opacity of your preoccupation, you will have a distorted vision, and that distorted vision arises as these different karmic realms. They don't exist in themselves, but neither are they purely psychological. They arise due to causes and circumstances. When we leave here on Sunday afternoon, each of us goes off to our own particular life. Some people live alone, some people live with family, some people with complicated family situations. You do different kinds of work, you eat different kinds of food, you have different kinds of socialization, you do different amounts of meditation practice, you might be very sporty, you might not. If you actually look at the topology of each specific existence, it is unique. We're not clones, we're not replicas of each other. So we might think we know each other, while actually the worlds that we move in are very different. So we've already been exploring how this is called experience. What we experience is our world. You can't say it's objectively true because other people have different opinions about it. If it was true and true and true in itself, we would all agree. But it's not true on that level. On the other hand, because it's true for me, you can't say that it's unreal. It's not just a fantasy, because I live it every day. And as I move through my life, my choices are directed by my beliefs, my habits, things other people expect of me, and so on. So, it is as if we're all here together in the same room, but we're here as we have a shared experience of validity. The people who live in this village don't come here. They're out cutting their grass. They're having a barbecue in the back garden. That's what interests them. They're not coming here because they want to be here. We're here because we want to be here. This is the elective structure of our existence. We elect into our situation. It's not created by some God up in heaven. It's not directed by some devil. It's not some astrological formation. We're not dangling in the hands of fate. Neither is it exactly in the palm of our hand, because we find ourselves living our particular lives with our particular likes and dislikes as our life unfolds for us. If we look back and we see many of the choices we've made, we don't know why we made them, but we made them. And it seemed a good idea at the time. That's to say that at that moment I was positioned at the center of certain vectors, certain force fields, and from that stance I made a decision, and then that decision shifted how I would be. So for example, when I was as some of you know, I've told you before, when I was a teenager, I didn't like people very much. I didn't go out, I wasn't very social. I liked to swim a lot. So I went to a school where we did a lot of science, and I applied to university to do geology because I thought rocks are safe. And then I went hitchhiking, and I went to India, and I met a lot of people. And while I was in India, I wrote a letter to the university, could I please study anthropology instead? So I came back and I studied social anthropology, because I thought, well, you can't spend your life avoiding people, so you may as well study them before you actually have to meet them. So something happened to me from my kind of social isolation in Scotland to getting in and out of cars and trucks and having all kinds of experiences, and you suddenly see, oh, this is a moving world. So that's the situatedness of a particular moment. Due to causes and conditions, I had a view, and then the view changed, and then I'm in another world. So I'm sure we have all experienced something like this. This is the functional or the phenomenological instability, the existential ungroundedness of our life moment by moment. Our pattern formations are evanescent. They arise and dissolve, arise and dissolve. So when we say, oh, we're born as a human being, there's nothing much to hold on to in that. These are formations which are ever shifting and changing. So again and again, this Dharma is always saying, don't materialize, don't rareify, don't solidify. Stay with the beauty of dynamic interaction with the environment. And you realize there's nothing to get. The only thing in life is to be here in the moment. That's it. We're alive, this is it. And if life's shit, then we're alive with shit. And if life's gorgeous, we're alive with gorgeousness. Because if you're in it, it's life. And if you try to avoid it or manipulate it or hide from it, you have living death. You kill yourself before you die. You close yourself down. So there are many veils to the doors of perception. There are many ways to avoid life. So we have to turn into it. And if we find ourselves in a particular situation, here we are. Of course you can modify some of the conditions, but too much modification, too much manipulation leads to being outside your life, trying to get it going in the right direction. And then where are you? If you exile yourself from yourself because you can't inhabit yourself because you're not worthy of inhabitation, and I can only be myself when I improve myself, where are you? You're in a conceptual parallel universe, and it's very lonely and desolate. So to come into embodiment, to come into the vitality of life, that's the best protection against ceaselessly manifesting in these six realms, because they arise from deep fundamental identification with patterns because of the invisibility of the ground.
James, one question please. What is an unwavering action? What would that be? Second, due to unwavering action one is born in the heavens of Brahma.
Unwavering action simply means the mind not moving. So for example, if you did a lot of the jhanas in the Theravadan system, so that you still the mind further and further to more and more subtle levels, then the mind is not moving at all, and that leads you to live in that domain for a while. Yeah?
Also due to some actions you are born in somewhere. Due to actions of whom?
Sorry, I'm not quite sure where we are.
Due to, for example, the first, due to virtuous actions,
Yeah.
one is born in.
Yeah.
Of whom? Actions of whom?
That we do, due to the activity that we carry out.
In this life, if I have something
Yeah.
done in the next moment, but this is not about
No,
life after
from
death.
previous lives as well. Whoever has been the person, because, okay, let's look at the frame of this. For many people nowadays, it's very difficult to believe that we have future lives and past lives, and it seems like a big deal because, boy, I'm just me. I am the one. But what he's concerned with here is awareness, which is unborn and unceasing. So this is open to whatever streams are arising. So in situation after situation, the energy of the ground manifests and patterns. If the ground is not known, there is an identification or a fusion with a pattern. Mm-hmm. And that creates the impulse for the activity to arise. So in whatever situation that was happening in this life for future situations or in past lives to generate this situation, there were particular kinds of fusion. So we can see in the meditation when we sit and a thought arises or a feeling arises, if we merge into it, it takes us on a little journey. In that journey is deepening and making more accessible that particular tendency. So once you've built up these tendencies very quickly, like a ski run, that many people are going down, the surface becomes icy and you just whoosh down it. So you're carried away, yeah?
Well, my question is not to the tendency. My question is, if I die, there's no me. There are just tendencies. So this idea that something would happen before my life,
Yeah.
it appears in the life of something that happens in life before appears in my life right now. Yeah. It is I don't like the linear, the Like linear.
The linearity of it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay. We send the text to the Buddha. Rewrite the Dharma. We have an objection.
No, this is like there is something in the mind,
Yeah.
and when I appears, I pick it up. I pick something,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then someone else picked it up.
Yeah.
So if I'm good or if I'm bad, there's nothing that I will earn something with it in the next life.
But there are certain choice points. Like I gave the example.
Yes.
When you enroll in the university, you have to choose a course. You can't say, I'm just going to university and I'll do whatever I want. I think in the old German university system you could wander around in departments, but in Britain you have to sign up for something. So when you die, according to the tradition, and you go into the bardo, if you're going to be born as a human being, you have to enter into the point of sexual contact between two people, and when consciousness meets the male and female essences merging, then you have conception. And you're in that womb, with that mother, with that family situation. And it's not just happenstance. There's a kind of formation which is occurring. And later you have more variation. But there are critical moments where you are born, which is why they say, in the moment of, as preparation for dying, one should try to increase clarity and have positive thoughts and organize yourself so that you optimize the likelihood of choosing an exciting place to be born.
For who do I do it?
For the one who will be born.
Okay.
Because you see, that this is the problem. We think we're me. I'm me. But I'm me as a statement. This is noise coming out of my mouth.
Yes.
So it is true that we are a subject, but we're not only a subject. That our subject formation is happenstance. It's kind of juxtaposition, the meeting of factors. It's not my will to power. I don't make myself be me. I find myself being me, but I still say I'm me.
Yes.
So that's the double move.
Yeah.
Life is happening to me, and it's my life. So it seems as if, how will I be reborn? But as you're pointing, it's not that I, as James, I'm going to wake up and think, oh.
But not even as a woman, James.
Yeah, it could be anything. Huh?
But yes. Well, this is something like, is there something that you keep a form afterwards, and you will like this form? Because form actually, I was always thinking you lose it with the moment of the death.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just...
You get different accounts. Generally in the Terma, the treasure teachings of Karma Lingpa, when you die, the identification with the physical body clearly goes as the elements go down, and so consciousness merges in the space element and it finally separates. But there's a kind of shimmering ghost-like echo of this form.
Oh.
And then at a certain point, as you move through the state of the bardos, as you move towards rebirth, you start to take on the sense of how it's going to be. And that gives you the orientation to do that. Because if you were still in your human form, and you came across a situation of pigeons having sex, which never seems very interesting. But anyway, there's the pigeons having sex. You're going to be born as a pigeon. So you've got to get in there and be the fertilized egg. If you were still strongly in your notion of being a human being, it wouldn't be much of a turn on. So, in the bardo, wow! And then you go in there. If you've been born if you're living as a giraffe in this life, but in the next life you're going to be a human being, then clearly human beings having sex is interesting for you.
I see.
in England, in the time of the Romantic poets, they talked of this as elective affinities. That you find yourself having an affinity, or you're drawn towards something. You have a kind of alignment with something. I mean, we just look, when you go shopping for clothes, you go in a big market, there's all these clothes, you wouldn't buy them. You look at that, so that one's for me. All these other ones are not for me. You go in a restaurant, you look at the menu, some arousal arises, you and the naming of that dish, or what they describe as the ingredients, they come together. And this is the affinity, or the interaction of subject and object. The potential is always vast, but we're like a little mole in a tunnel under the ground. We're moving, tracking the familiarity of what confirms the me-ness of me. And as this dissolves, the grasping of the yearning for identity is what takes us into reforming, because I want to have another identity.
If somebody decides, I don't want to have an identity anymore, stays just dissolve.
Really? That would be nice. Then you wouldn't need to do any. You wouldn't need to do any meditation or anything. You would just say, God or whoever's out there, this is the end. This is to announce, I don't want this anymore. Bye-bye. Then you're waiting. So, in the last 100 years, there have been many groups of people who decided that. They sell all their property and they go to Mount Ararat and they wait there for the end of time. Right, had enough, we're going. Where's the rapture? Had enough. And then after a month, they're cold and hungry and tired, and they have to make their life happen again. That's why they talk of samsara is endless. You can't just get out of it by killing yourself. You can't say, I've had enough, because it doesn't stop. You have to find what is the exit, and the exit is to rest in unborn awareness. And then the flow of experience is passing through without a trace, like the reflections in the mirror. But if you merge into the reflection, then the reflections show us the God realm, the hell realm, the animal realm, and so on. And if you're completely identified with the domain of reflection, and you don't see this is in a mirror, and the mirror is empty, then it's just one damn thing after another.
Samsara does not finish after the death.
I beg your pardon?
Samsara does not finish after one is dead.
No, unfortunately not at all.
Yes. I was thinking maybe that this is a little worse, that this is maybe you losing your form and you pick up something of that other person and you mix up and you come like this. Is it possible?
I think anything is possible. Because the issue would be, I'm just me, is a delusion.
Exactly.
We are coming into formation through other people. Which is why they say, when somebody is moving towards death, it's very important to have peace and quiet around them. Because otherwise, other people's emotions come very powerfully into them. So if a relative is crying and saying, please don't leave us, please don't go, that's very, very disturbing for the person who's dying. So they die infected with these waves which are very ungrounded. And they don't have a body to kind of stabilize themselves back into. So then you get knocked off course very easily. We never know what's going to happen. Life doesn't go in a straight line. Which is why, in English they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. There's that old song from Gene Pitney. I was only 24 hours from Tulsa. Only 24 hours from your arms. I stopped to rest for the night. Oh, I saw a welcoming light. I stopped to rest for the night. And then I saw her standing. Like that. It's like that. you're in the bubble of your world, and then you see someone's ass, and you. It happens every day. And the other story is someone's in their car, and there's a wasp in the car, and then they crash in a tree and they're dead. Life's just like that. Which is why, as long as we're simply identified with the patternings of experience, we're just very, very vulnerable. Especially at this time, we have to remember again and again, war is not far away. If war sweeps into Europe, the turmoil will be unbelievable. For all these poor refugees in so many countries, people coming in the middle of the night, the terror and the fear of that. And then when that fills you, how can you make a rational decision? How can you be grounded? So we are so fortunate to have the peace and tranquility of our situation, enough food to eat, a place to sleep, and a space to meditate and find out more about ourselves. For most people, survival on a physical level takes you up to the surface. I was in India a few months ago, and I was at the sea, and they have a very long net, and they take it out from the shore in a boat, and it goes out in a big, big arc, and then they have 20, 30 people on one end and 20, 30 people on the other, and they're pulling the net in and pulling the net in, and at the end they have less than 1 kilo of fish. There's a lot of people doing a lot of work, and the men, they're out in the water, bobbing up and down, and there's no fish. It's fished out, because these huge boats are coming and taking everything.
Europe and from Japan.
Yeah. So there you see, there's so much suffering that comes in the world. These people are spending their whole life just to survive, just to put something in their mouth. And we have this situation. So we are very fortunate. But as he says, this situation is not mine. It arises due to causes and circumstances, and at any moment, the patterning of these causes and circumstances can shift. So we have this precious opportunity. So, fourthly, the performer, the chepapo, is an instant of wrong views. And this is particularly important for meditators. So he's talking here about, the first sentence is, from that instant's continuation, the phenomena of samsara arise, and thus one goes under the power of the impure other. This instant is referring to what we looked at earlier about the nature of ignorance. When the cloud and the sky are there together, and we see the cloud is in the sky, and then the slight tilt, so we become cloud fixated, the cloud becomes figural, the sky recedes in the background, and now cloudness is the focus of our attention. That one instant, which could resolve itself back into seeing, oh, the cloud is in the sky, and open. But the fixation into the cloud, as that one instant continues, more cloud, more cloud, more cloud. You look back, cloud is behind me. You look ahead, cloud is in front of you because you're projecting it on. It seems to be just cloud. That's what he means by this instant of slippage. There is a continuation, and from this, all the phenomena of samsara arise. And so we go under the power of the impure other. The impure other means the reified other. Everything is like the reflection in the mirror. So the impure other, it might be a gorgeous person you fall in love with. It's not meaning impure in that sense. It means the impurity of the projection of inherent self-nature is put into the other by ourselves. I am real, you are real. If you are real and I am real, I like you or I don't like you, or you're nothing to me. These are the three possibilities. Indifference, attraction, or aversion. It goes on all the time. So the impure other is impure for the subject because it becomes a wall that you bounce the ball off. Boom, boom, boom. You are like this, you are like this, you are like this. And the more I can see who you are, as the ball comes back to me, the more I am. The more real you become, the more real I become. When babies are very small, they don't have much sense of mum. As the baby starts to become more of a person, their mum becomes more of a person for them, because they start to be able to manipulate their mother. This is the first skill of the human being, to be able to coerce mum into doing what you want. So the development of the profile of the mother and the development of the profile of the baby moving into infancy is escalation of complexity on both sides. Yeah? There's differentiation of the mother. At first the mother is just a kind of extension of the child. There's a kind of prosthesis that allows them to do more than they can. But now as the mother becomes another person, the infant is developing moves for trying to get mum to enter into its game of power. So this is what it means. Mum is thickening into a person in parallel for the infant who is thickening into a person. And that's why it is an impure other, because actually the mother is the radiance of the Buddha mind. The infant is the radiance of the Buddha mind. What's going on between them is quite light and playful, it's dynamic, and nothing is ever established. We are becomings, we are movement. But once you say, Mom, Mom, then this woman is being pulled down into the mold of Mum. It's very difficult for the mum to say, I'm only Mum from 9 in the morning till 10, and then I'm having a coffee break. But Mom, the whine of the child goes right into the heart. So that's the child's means of survival. I'm telling you, you are my mother. You might want to forget it, but I won't let you forget it. Because I can't be me unless you're Mum. We are a dyad, we are a pair. Forget the man, he's not important. It's you and me, Mum. So, this is what it means by the impure other. It's not that it's bad in a sense. It's more, impure here means more like misidentified or over-identified or narrowly identified. So the woman that your mother is, with all the aspects of her life, her interests, her friends, her art, whatever it is, irrelevant to the child. Child's constantly saying, don't bother doing that, don't do that. I'm enough for you, because I need all of you. Nothing else in the world is as important as me. So if the child can do that, they are redefining the mother. So the woman becomes the mother. This is what it's meaning here, that identity is being massaged into the potential, which is that woman, and if she hadn't got pregnant, who knows where her life would have been with all these different possibilities. But now there's a particular formative force field being established by the child. So that happens to all of us. It happens to men in different ways with different things, that we find ourselves in that situation. So you experience it as a child when the parent says, no, you can't do that. If you remember the shock of that, or being shamed by a parent, you've just been moving about doing something and they say, why? You're shocked out of this free, non-dual movement in the world, part of everything, and suddenly you're reduced to this little thing. You become the other. You become the impure other for the parent. That is to say, you become a thing for them in that moment. And if you're very unlucky, you're born in a family where you're a thing most of the time. So, When awareness gets lost, it forms as a subject. When awareness gets really lost, it forms as an object. And we know that many people in history have been turned into total objects, as sex workers who trafficked, as slaves in different parts of the world and at different periods of time, people whose freedom to be self-identifying has been completely removed, and they become who the other says they are. So this is also the power of the object here. Moreover, from emptiness, interpretations, tröpa, what we've been talking about, the polarized positionings arise. And due to this, awareness is believed to be a substantial self. So this is really important. Awareness, which is the clarity of the mind to reveal whatever is going on, which when we look, we see that it has no shape or color. When this retracted, grasping tendency, which is an energetic formation, nobody's doing it. It's just like nobody's deciding, I'm going to grasp. There's just a grasping, because the ego self arises through grasping. The ego self is what you call grasping. It's not that somebody does it, it's that the epiphenomena or the illusory identity of being someone arises out of the habit of energetic contraction. So when that goes on, awareness manifests in the form of a self. So who am I? I'm me or I'm open awareness. Both are true. The Atman and Brahman are indistinguishable. The ground of being and the particular point of manifestation are not two different things. But if the fixation is on formation and you're looking for consolidation as being a knowable self, then you end up with self-formation. Which is why, from the point of view of Dzogchen, you always have to be clear that awareness doesn't mean anything to do with concepts and conceptualization. It's not about knowledge. It's not knowing about, it's not knowledge of itself. It's a kind of illuminating capacity. And as soon as it gets consolidated, the knowledge is now appearing in a formation that hides itself from itself. I am me. That is a thought. Where does the thought arise from? It's a thought arising in the mind. What is the mind? Well, it's my mind. Fuck off, leave me alone. My mind. It's up to me. Huh. So the door is completely closed. You haven't a clue where's the exit? Where's the exit? I'm me. I've got a mind. It's mine. So this is what's driving samsara on and on. But the thought, I'm me, it's like a breath or a puff of wind, like a showing, like a gentle breeze in summer. It's a movement of the open sky. It's just a gift. It doesn't establish anything. I'm me. I'm Donald Duck. I'm Donald Trump. You can imagine anything. This is the wonder. You can just be anybody you like. And the way we consolidate that is to say, well, I'm me. But I'm me is I am me. Right, we're going to time it. Very important. I am me. 1.5 seconds. Imagine you could build a prison in 1.5 seconds. That's what we do. Now all of you, all of your potential has been gathered into that one little thing. Because now I am me, it's like a sausage skin. You can keep putting stuff into it. You put blood into it, you put oats, you put whatever you like, and you make a bigger and bigger and bigger sausage. That's the ego. Not good for vegans. I am an empty skin, an empty signifier which is full of stuff. The problem is the sausage skin is empty of self. So it's the reification of the self that turns it into a skin, that turns it into a kind of container. I am happy. I say I'm happy because I feel happiness inside me. I feel hungry. I feel hunger arising inside me. So just as we have skin on the outside of the body, we seem to develop a psychic skin which has all these variable contents. And that psychic skin we call my mind. Now that's got nothing to do with what Dharma is calling the mind. Mind is awareness, unborn from the very beginning. And the psychic skin is a delusion which is generated by reliance on concepts, which is why he says, moreover, from emptiness, interpretations, these tropa, arise. So what is the basis of the skin of the self? I'm me, I'm not you. I'm not you. If I'm not you, who am I? I'm me. So the separation of self and other becomes the basis for me. So what is the skin around me? It's you. The exclusion of you gives rise to me. I am what is left over when I've got rid of all you guys. Because I don't know who you are, and I don't know where you came from, but I'm in here. I'm in here. Go away now. I've had enough. So that's the meaning of duality when you read that. That's all it means. You roll out the dough, the big dough. Then you take the biscuit cutter. One looks like the sun, one looks like the moon. Click, 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 self, other, self, other, self, other. It's the same dough. It's the same dough. Like Shakespeare has Shylock saying, if you cut me, do I not bleed? Look, I got blood like you. The difference between us is so thin, so fine, so nothing. But you're not me. And in fact, because you're quite like me, you're not me. There's a Danish philosopher called Mikael Borg Jacobsen, and he wrote a very interesting book on Freud and Jung. It's called Rivalrous Resemblance. And he said it was exactly because Jung was so similar in many of his attitudes to Freud that Freud had to hate him. So at first they became like brothers, they spend a lot of time together, my best friend, fuck you. Because you're like me, but you're not the same as me. So what do I do with this difference? So Freud started to see him as an enemy, as a rival, and then they really parted the ways. So rivalrous resemblance is like this fulcrum point between self and other. And the closer we are, the more you have to go apart. This is what many people experience with their siblings. You come out of the same mother's body, you live in the same house, you eat the same food, but what are you doing here? Where did you come from? Mum is my mum. Why are you calling my mum your mum? There's some mistake here. So siblings often have that feeling, and it's because of the proximity. So you imagine that self and other, it's so close. It's the cloud and the sky. The cloud is an emanation of the sky, a manifestation of the sky. The reflection is inseparable from the mirror. But if you divide it and then you forget the emptiness, you've just got stuff. And there's too much of it to be allowed to just go as it pleases. You have to stabilize the situation. So that's why he's saying it's very we can observe this for yourself in the meditation and how you interact with other people, that the substantial self is a belief which is reaffirmed again and again by the activity of discrimination. This is not that. Apples are not pears. Men are not women. People from this country are not the same as us. We don't want them in our country. When you start to have the idea of the maintenance of a form, myself, as I like myself to be, then you have the basis for war and killing. Because you have blood purity, Aryan purity. We don't want people defiling our blood. We don't want miscegenation. We don't want immigrants. We don't want these people who are corrupting the values of blood and soil. These are stories that are not running just in Germany. They run all over the world. Because this is the projection of the fragile ego. The ego has no reliable, grounded, safe place to stand. It's fragile and it's dependent on the environment. I need you to be me, but I don't want to be dependent on you. I am autonomous. I am my own person, but I need you to be me, because if I'm just locked in solitary confinement, I want you to come and talk to me. So I'm banging my plate on the wall till the warder comes and says, "Oi, shut up, number 9, shut up." At least he said, "Shut up." You can see that in prison. It's terrible, terrible to be in solitary confinement. So I'm me, but I need you to be me. That's the paradox of the ego, that you can never be free because of your dependency, your interdependency, your co-emergence, the fact that you come from the same ground. So there's a lot of intensity that he's describing in this particular place. But we take a break now, and we shall then continue and do a bit more practice.